It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. We are celebrating New Year's Eve together. We are taking this holiday as a moment to reflect and look back and look forward and to come to a state of presence so that things can really begin to percolate along the right lines for you. You know, we discuss a lot here on the channel about identifying people who are narcissistic or psychopathic. And oftentimes, people I find want to focus more on the negative in others and sort of continue along that versus sort of accepting a truth or being rigorously honest with themselves. They want to maintain the trauma bond, but they want to be free. And so there is this sort of tug of war that I find with the viewership. They really want to harpoon, if you will, they did this, they did that. And of course, that is important because you do need to understand the cause that creates the effect. But to some degree, you want to stop, then the solution is to stop attracting or finding those types of victimizing patterns to be attractive in your life. It has to be a flip and change of perspective. So when we really talk about celebrating the day here moving forward, whether we're going to drink champagne, sparkling grape juice, sparkling water, fruit juice, whatever it is that makes you feel good, it's important to focus on your well-being and really identify the different foods and different substances, different beverages cause you to feel differently. I've always studied that. Even when I first began in college, I was attuned to the fact in my psychology classes that diet and exercise can affect your mood, and certain foods create more of a sense of well-being than others. So it's important to find out what those are for you. That's not the topic of this video, but what I really want to focus in on celebration today is how to understand and deflect the negative and the toxic and those people who are sort of the narcissistic or psychopathic individuals, so that you can deflect them and no longer have an energy sort of leaching to them and to not be attracted or attract them into your life. So there's a change that can take place within, which is really wonderful, where you become sort of immune and inoculated and filled up, not with self-absorption, but with really the feeling of security and serenity that is a sort of a feeling of happiness that is an undergirding and a chronic happy state, a chronic at peace and content state. And that is oftentimes not an egoic state, not, sort of the ego, but it's deeper. And in the subconscious is really where we want to look at moving forward this year, because the unconscious runs the show. That's the conductor to the train. That's the engine that's pulling the freight. It's your subconscious mind. And so subconsciously, it's important to understand that there are new opportunities of feeling and behaving and doing and accomplishing and experiencing. All those sort of experiential states will help you to land on your feet squarely and cause you to sort of be able to move away from and not be tempted by the others who have been hurtful, not to be swayed by the hurtful things that they say or do, that it just sort of bounces off of you. It does not make an impact because you're filled within with what's going on, and you're not subject to the negative messages, the disempowering relationships where you're giving your power away. I think that is really one of the most important changes and transcending experiences, that if people can then fill themselves up with a sense of peace, harmony, conviction, confidence, and knowing that, of what is. Oftentimes there's a living in denial when you're in a relationship with, the narcissist. We need to get kind of a different term for them. Let's just call them the external censor. It's important that you develop your own definitions, your own meaning, that you take an active hand in that, and use the role of metacognition, the ability for you to think about what you're thinking about, that is your higher self, higher order thinking, to elevate, inform, and educate yourself so you're more learned, more wise. You're more like that lighthouse versus less like the dark cloud. and identifying with those positives in those images and those statements, so you can deflect those people who are trying to sway you with the egoic, trying to criticize, berate, cause you the self-doubt, the cognitive dissonance. You can experience a tremendous amount of growth once you learn the role of metacognition and cognitive reframing, so that you are filled with the correct meaning, correct learning, correct interpretation, and you're deflecting the wrong, the erroneous, the false, the lying, the betraying, all that scratching and clawing that people who are very egoic based will involve themselves in to get where they want to go or have what they want to have from others. And there's a lot of people who have been victimized, we're talking about the past. And so that does not have to be carried with you for the next decade. It doesn't need to be carried with you even the next hour if you so decide. We're talking really about the power of decision and the power of being able to be filled yourself, filling your own cup first, being able to fill a cup and toast to accomplishment, and then being able to envision versus toasting to something else. Because there's always, with people who are not yet healed, there's still things out there that cause them to be triggered. And deep inside, they know this. So on this holiday today, let's get rigorously honest, no matter how ugly it may feel to confront it. The ugly will transform into the beautiful. It'll transform into the acceptable. It'll transform into the manageable once you look at it squarely in the face. And there's this, usually when we're talking about personal growth, emerging from relationships where you've been taught that you are not enough. You've been taught that you are too needy because you happen to have a need, through people who are narcissistic, who don't have empathy. So if you've had a trauma bond, if you've been, I just kind of exposed to, what do we call it before? The critic, what do we just call, the external critic. Let's just call the narcissist the external critic. It's important that you learn to flip that switch and identify new meaning for yourself, and use the role of metacognition and cognitive reframing to give a new meaning and label and term to those things that you are experiencing in your life, so that you get a sense of empowerment. It's all about the empowerment. And to get that next little oomph up is to look at things that are commonplace for you, that tend to continue to trigger or drag you down. They are out there. Whether it's rush hour traffic, whether it's a computer that you can't log into, whether it's a food that you don't like, whether it's whatever, la-da-da, there are things out there that still trigger you. So those are disempowering. Those are disempowering. The things that have judgment over you, the I don't like, I can't, being able to see them and being able to confront them and allowing them to be, and know that you are not going to be adversely affected because of the external critics that live in the world. Does this make sense? If you can back up and then hold the space. Holding space is a real crucial aspect to being able to heal, make sense, understand what is, harmful, destructive in relationships, and what is productive and what is contributory towards your energy, your higher vibration, getting to where you want to go, taking steps forward, actually getting in the change, holding the space. But number one is to release those negative emotional balls and chains that are still holding you back. In other words, I can't pursue this job because I would have to move and I wouldn't be available to do this. Certain things that you are holding out there that are holding you back are important to be, untied. Untie them from your shoe, untie them from your boot, untie them from your ankle, untie them from your legs, because they will tend to wrap around you and keep you restricted. These are the negative and disempowering. And holding space so that you don't aren't attracted to those anymore is oftentimes the ability to say no, to create boundaries, and then knowing what the boundaries are, what it feels like, and not to be misled by the antithesis. So you will be tested, you will be tempted to be triggered, to be underestimated, to be subjected to the external criticizers, the external censors in your life who are trying to get control and power over you. Usually if it is for them and it's not in your best interest, you need to be able to identify and know what is your best interest, what is a best fit for you, and to be able to declare it and to be filled with it 100%. Oftentimes people are trying to, it's the cup is half full, where you're half healed, and that is looking on the positive, but we need to get that level so that it's even completely filled to the top 100%. What holds you back from that 100% conviction? And the procrastination, what is it that you now, which is a big important topic for you to address, which we can do a little bit right now, is what have you been procrastinating? What have you been avoiding? What have you been denying? And let's list those out, even if it's 5 things. And I do recommend when you do our videos, if you're walking around the house or driving or sitting on the couch or going for a walk or at the health club, whatever it is, I think it's important that on some of these videos that you follow through. And actually, I'm a big component and proponent of writing. Because when you write, you are creating the most important, valuable lesson book for your life. Jim Rohn once said, the most valuable books are those that are blank. In other words, of all the books that you can read are the ones that you write yourself. And even if you've never been a writer, you have got a pen and paper somewhere. If this is the new year, go and get yourself a tablet. I've done this before where I've brought forth my new tablets. I am a writer. I'm a big believer in the kinesiology of writing and a physical paper. Tablets, I can type this, my iPad, my phone, I'm going to text myself. If that works for you, what really works at the real kinesthetic level though is physical paper, a physical pen, a physical spiral, and your own writing. And writing things big enough so that you can see it. Beginning to work on your handwriting skills so that they are clear. And you realize that what you write is what's coming out. And oftentimes, like in the recovery journal, we talk about the first, writing freehand, 3 full pages, which is like getting your feelings out. Even if you're just writing, I am tired, I am tired, I am tired. You're getting these out of your system because it's those negatives that are lurking that you don't know, which is the real miracle and so fascinating to me. That there is so much in the subconscious that you don't know about yourself that's there and that you need to listen to, and the recovery journal will help to introduce you to yourself. It'll help to introduce you to the opportunities that are there that you dream and that you have in your potential that you haven't even heard or listened to because you've been so entrapped or ensnared and sort of, tangled up in a trap of trauma bond or relationship or upbringing or workplace or community or country, so it's so important to get those out, and so really one of the first things I want to talk about is being able to purge yourself of this negativity, which oftentimes dulls your sharpness and dulls your happiness and dulls your emotional energy and keeps you in the apathy. It keeps you in the drudgery. It keeps you sort of feeling null and void and isolated. There's a lot of negativity that will cocoon you. You do need those, what I call the valley cocoon moments. You need to have those moments of deep rest. You need to have those valley moments where you're in the contemplation and you're just sort of in the healing, in your centering. And you can still keep those, and those are going to be important for your maintenance. But what's really important is that you kind of get your hand to paper. Remember back in the day, back in the day is, when we didn't have computers and, you actually learned how to write, and then the teacher would, if you made a mistake or if you did something, I will not, writing these things out 1,000 times. You sure as heck wouldn't do that again because you just wrote it out 1,000 times. And then physically, your emotional center, your spiritual center is then connected to the muscle memory. And then you wrote it out. So even years later, you remember, I will not. And then whatever it is that you did, remember that. There is power in writing. Oh, but peace and harmony, there's power in the Apple I-10. A lot of people are putting all this power in all these other external things. The TV I have, the phone that I have, how fast am I on Instagram? I mean, there's all these things that parade as power, but yet people feel that there's something missing, that, so I want to assist you to get to that personal power. So it resides within you. It's more powerful than the iPhone. It gives you more shortcuts than the apps. It gives you more up-to-date info than, the Google News. I mean, you can still do all these things, but I want to help you enliven that within, which to me is so exciting, and can create new changes in your life that you can hardly believe, or that you even feel is you. I've experienced through the work that I've done and through the systems that I teach, I've experienced miraculous changes. New product development, intellectual property for multi-million-dollar, that became multi-million-dollar new products that, and helped companies, profit tremendously. Intellectual property is a unique innovation or thought form. That is who I am. I am one of those people who thinks outside of the box, solution oriented. I've created a lot of taglines, advertising. Once again, new products, several new products on the market, which I don't list because it's, protection of the agreement that I made with these companies. But, these were a result of the exercises that I teach here. So there's a spark and a light and electricity and just, you hear about the divine spark, the Michelangelo, with the reclining Roman gentleman with his finger in the clouds. It's like living in that state, desiring that. So it's important to realize that there are states and things and dreams within you that you need to pop open and get breathing like a bottle of champagne that hasn't breathed in a while. And really writing and doing these exercises that we discuss in the membership, that we've discussed through the tools here. Maybe you've been with me for a couple of years. We're going to go into more of the recovery journal and the impact of it. But one thing I want to focus in on today to help you sort of cleanse out is to understand that free-form writing, first thing in the morning, getting yourself a notebook, getting yourself a tablet, not the new iPhone. The notebook might only cost $3.68. The pen, you might get a pack for $5. We're talking about an investment in you and opening up that well and that resource that is kind of like finding an oil well within. It's finding all of a sudden an energy source that can help you feel better about yourself, and knowing what that is and knowing how to regulate and control and manage that, but also so that you are able to identify social situations and able to identify opportunity so that you can surround yourself with more that will uplift and continue that divine spark and help you live in that dimension, if you will, in quantum body, that enlightened body, and deflect and detract those situations that you don't want to occur, but to attract to you those people, relationships, and situations that you do want, and give you more command over those. And so once again, the things that I teach here are because they have created the experience in my life. So tested and true and wonderful. So first, we're talking about the recovery journal and those sort of free form. So getting the notebook, and I'm going to identify this really a lot more in depth in my membership, sort of going through all the specifics on the recovery journal, like really how-to videos, I think is what we plan to do and get the lay of the land in the membership. So if you've missed some things or only understand it sort of at a superficial level and you want to know it more in depth, we will do that in our memberships. But for number one, with a recovery journal, you need to get a notebook. I don't have one right here. I've got one in my office. Actually, what am I talking about? I've got one right here. So getting a notebook and being able to have this as your recovery journal, that you go to this upon waking every morning, okay? Getting a big, thick, nice notebook. I love the 5-star College World notebook, okay? And getting a pen that you like. You might have a special pen. I have a bunch of pens that write really well. I mean, when they hit the page, they just flow. I can make my, handwriting nice and fluid and curvy or whatever, but I can read it. And so you're taking pen to paper, and you are just writing out whatever comes to mind when you're drinking your coffee, your tea, your milk, your water, your juice, whatever it is. Even if you need to get up a half an hour early, change up your routine. You can find a lot of pockets of time if you get up a little bit early. I myself am a very early riser. This has been instilled in me since my college. To get up early, do the studies. I pulled the all-nighters. I did my studies, my flashcards. I learned the stuff of psychology and writing, all that good stuff. So, but the tools that I want to give are that can bring transformative change. So you can introduce yourself to really what is underneath you that is tingling and like waiting for you to meet yourself in that deeper sense, if that makes any sense, because it is real. If you can take pen to paper and write out freehand a full 3 pages, and if you're skipping lines, then you're going to do 6 pages in this. But otherwise, in just writing whatever comes to mind. I'm tired. I want a new bed. I love the sunlight. I love the smell of the roses in the morning. Whatever it is, just write it freehand. You'll find that you're able to flush yourself out, and you're just able to get some things off of your chest, out of your mind. And if you do this daily, this is a discipline that I want you to do for at least 30 days, if not 6 months. If you want a change will occur. How bad do you want it? Do you want it? Yes or no? It's time to get off of that sort of, uncertainty. I want change. So this is what you're going to try. This is not expensive. This is for you. And these are for your eyes only. It's not for you to share and reread and what did I write yesterday? It's a chance for you to purge. It's a chance for you to get it out of your system. When you do that, you can see things more clearly. You feel a sense of calm and content and peace and then harmony. So you can also not only purge yourself of the negative, and then therefore, but you'll also find that you'll be able to discuss some things like, I don't like this, I don't like that, I made a mistake here, I really want to change this. You'll get to hear your real voice. Your real voice will, show you some stunning things. I really want to move. I really want to travel. I really want to become a business owner. I really want to learn computer programming. I really want to learn a new language. I want to learn the salsa. I want to learn how to take better care of myself. I want to become more spiritual. All that is in your book. Hello. And then you finally have a chance and a place to listen and then give yourself feedback. And then you'll be able to identify your I am a little bit more quickly. It won't be sort of, people walk around with a big egoic shell and they're not really sort of fulfilling their dreams, but they're just sort of going along with the crowd. You can be a leader. Begin to lead in this manner. And as you do that, you'll be able to identify and then not be seduced by the negative, because you'll have it written here. There's a lot of sections that we also do in the recovery journal that are fun exercises for you to find out even more and have what I call these aha moments where you have I think what's called like a revelation. You have, a manifestation. You have, all of a sudden the wind catches you under your feet and you're doing the do. You're finally doing it. You're like, I knew I wanted to be an artist. I knew I wanted to be a builder. I knew I wanted to start this business. I knew I could do this. And then getting it set up and then fulfilling it. And then when things start to go positive, realize that it is okay that things go positive. I think a lot of people are so afraid of failure that they never even start. They never even do what can help them because they've got these thoughts that interrupt them. those are really taught to you oftentimes by others that were controlling or judgmental and then have lived in your mind. They're like seeds that are now in your garden and you can't see no sunrise because those weeds have just completely, entangled your window. You can't even see out. You can't even see anymore. You don't know your potential. All you feel is the repetitive pattern of that negative. So it's time to shake that loose. Sometimes you got to get a real big machete, cut those vines off. They might be really tough. They might be very slippery. They might be very gritty. Only you know, and you can release those when you begin to write it out. Now, the other thing I was going to mention is that when you begin to do this, you'll begin to realize that you need to be consistent and you might get some success. And don't be afraid of failure and don't be afraid of success. Begin to weed out and stop the thoughts that are I'm just going to do what I usually do. I'm going to fall back in a slump. I'm going to become apathetic. Happy New Year. And so catching yourself and then gently and just say, okay, now I'm going to do a little of this, and then gently be able to catch yourself from those moments, and so that you can then trigger into the positive versus being triggered by the negative. Does that make sense? So your beginnings, I'm a real fan of new beginnings. And so after you do the purging, let's just begin to ask now, what are some new beginnings that you would really like to see and realize for yourself? And if you just write new beginnings on the top of your paper right now, you can then begin to write, what would you like to see, feel, be, have, and do? I would like to finish my book. I would like to start, a business. I would like to do more yoga. I would like to learn how to balance veggies and proteins. I would like to season my food better. What are some new beginnings that you see for yourself that are really big? Okay, and once again, and important things that you are able to correct is and acknowledge and validate are what are the external sensors, and that have then become an internal sensor that is blocking you and keeping you stagnant. Oftentimes, once again, those negative messages were taught to you that you have learned and have been reinforced by those who needed to control and judge and have power over others. So we want to keep things really simple. As I was mentioning in the membership video, get it right down to the binary. And really, this is good, and not black and white thinking, but just as a way for you to get organized, really clearly organized, and keeping it very simple. We're not talking about, really complicated. We're talking about foundational that need to be repeated again and again for you to excel. And so, and new beginnings for you. Once again, there's, and if you're having trouble with this, writing and then posting for yourself, I have big whiteboards. I have big drawing tablets that I can pull out, and I hope to be doing this in our membership videos, and I will be doing this. So once again, like those are examples that I personally have that then I would bring forth. That's the next step moving forward, so I can make things even more clear for people, so they can get more and more growth and empowerment and realize this and apply this so you can get results. It's all about the results. I don't want people to have 10 years of psychotherapy and feel like I'm still stuck, they don't get it, and all that good stuff. So we're not only taking you from the beginning hurt, but we're going all the way beyond. So this channel is not only for people who have grappled with trauma bonds and narcissistic and psychopathic individuals, but for people who just really want to excel and open up their life to a new level. So healing and beyond is where we're about. And so the new beginnings. So in other words, if fear wasn't an issue, I would really love to. And so new beginnings, if money wasn't an issue, I would really love to. If my shyness wasn't an issue, I would really love to. Okay, if my apathy and laziness wasn't an issue, I would really love to. So these are some inquiries, and we work on this to see and open up and then write down in your notebook what you would really love to do. And hang those and keep them out on your stove. So you keep them in spontaneous, fresh places. Peace and harmony, that's weird. Hey, guess what? Own your weirdness. Zappos, some of the most famous companies, this is what they do. Your Elon Musk, your Stephen Jobs, your people with visions, they keep their visions alive. So you need to fill yourself with the vision. And so let's just try on a day-by-day basis, filling yourself. If time wasn't an issue, if being, surrounded by, if I didn't worry about what other people thought, I would really love to. If I didn't worry about what the narcissist thought, I would really love to. Do you see how this will open you up? I'm really excited to do more of this in the membership as well as for you all today. We're going to wrap this and continue on. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony. Have a happy new year and enjoy, thrive, and empowerment.